From New York, you are listening to Extra Time, Club and Country, driven by Continental Tire from the AT&T Virtual Studios. I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Charlie Davies, Kellyn Carr. Campeones, ole, ole, ole. I mean, come on, guys. 2 in 1 summer? How you like that? Nobody believes.
Running out of fingers.
Greg Berhalter delivering to the promised land. These young bucks delivering us to the promised land. Let's break it down. We're just doing this game tonight. Tomorrow, we'll get the MLS takes out there. We have plenty of them. Tonight, it's all about the Gold Cup. It's all about US-Mexico, and it's all about this U.S. men's national team that for the second time in a Gold Cup final, just the second, beat Mexico, beat El Tri. 7 Nations League starters on the field tonight for Mexico. 1 for the U.S. 1. This was not our first team. It doesn't matter. We just go get it. Charlie, give me your one word, man. What defines this performance, this result, this moment, and how do you feel?
Woo!
Lost for words. Charlie Davies is lost for words. He doesn't know what to say.
Well, there's a number of words that come to mind. I'm trying to think of the best one that fits this team, and I think it's resilience because they've grown throughout the tournament. I think the goal was always to get to the final. I don't think anyone ever doubted that. But to beat this A squad of the Mexican national team, that's a tall task. Let's be honest. But they came in and they gave a 100% commitment. And I give a ton of credit to Greg Berhalter because he empowered this team, and through his tactics of the high press you saw throughout the first half, push up, and then they started to create chances off of that press. It was a masterful performance from the coach, but as well as the players to go out there and get the job done. So, woo! I'm hyped. Bring on September. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's just roll into it. What are we going to do? Play club soccer? What a waste of time. No one needs it.
That was like 3 World Cup qualifiers, though, stacked back to back to back from a team that is not going to, as a group, you wouldn't think, have to get that done. Resiliency is Charlie's word for this. What's your word, Dave?
I think it's in the similar vein. I was trying to think of a better one to use than the one I came with. But it's culture. Like watching this game, I texted someone, I said, it felt like watching Landon and Bob and Bruce's team, where there'd be games that we'd play Mexico. It didn't feel like we had the better players. And every player for the U.S. had a belief they weren't going to lose. And we didn't have that for a while. And you even look at the game under Klinsmann that we went down to the Azteca and won. Again, wasn't our best team, but there was this level of innate belief and understanding from U.S. players that this wasn't a rivalry we were going to lose in, that we belonged on that field. And I think you saw that over the last month and a half from Nations League to this. And this was probably a better performance head-to-head against Mexico than the Nations League final one was, with that quality of players that we had. And I didn't expect it to look this way. I didn't think we didn't have a chance, but I didn't think we'd look like the better team. We should have won this game in regulation. We could have won it again in the beginning of extra time. And then we did win it and deserved to win it. So it feels like it's all back. It feels like an understanding of who U.S. soccer is and who the men's national team can be is back to the team that I grew up watching, which had success, wasn't the best team in the world, but never stepped on the field and didn't look like and looked like they didn't belong, or looked like they believed they didn't belong.
I mean, the hope is that it's the grit and it's the quality, right? And you're going to start combining that as you get these full rosters together. But Greg Berhalter is going to have some tough choices. He's also going to have some privilege here to choose guys and believe and trust guys that he might not have had full trust in before, Kellyn. What's your word? What stands out?
Well, I'll go from a personal standpoint, just proud. Like, I think that's the feeling that's shared by all of us. And, when you're talking about culture and spirit and those things, from remembering, watching the teams of the past or, Charlie's generation playing with the national team, you always felt so proud of the way this team, of the fight that the team was going to bring and that culture that Dave brought up. So I think from that perspective, for me personally, I'd say proud. If I can use a second one for the team, I would just say ready. And my biggest concern for heading into the summer was, well, what about that lost gap year where we, were searching for a manager and we didn't really have the pieces of the puzzle together? And is there enough time before World Cup qualifiers? Because I knew once that comes, there's no time to kind of be figuring things out and trying to, who can I trust? Who can I not trust? And is there enough time? And I was thinking with the first group, like, is there enough time with the first group to get together? And we saw through Nations League, the way that they stormed through that, learned and grew together even throughout a final. And then you're like, okay, well, the Gold Cup, we're kind of playing a little bit with, I don't know, it's like Mexico's bringing their A team, we're bringing our whatever team. And then you go through and you win this. And now you're starting to ask questions of Miles Robinson. He's a starter. Is it Turner? Is he a starter? Costa, he's got to be on. Where's he fit? He's got to be on the field. Like, there are so many good problems to have now. And I think overall, when you look at the group and the culture, regardless of whatever team you put out there now, you start to look through and you say, U.S. men's national team, as you head towards World Cup qualifiers, this group is ready.
Yeah, I think faith is my word. And it goes back to everything you guys said. Faith that they're ready. Faith in each other. Faith when they look to the side and behind and front and back that guy was going to be, fully engaged. And there were a lot of moments of that tested our faith. Paul Arriola hitting the post. Paul Arriola having some other chances. Paul Arriola getting himself in good spots. Finishing across the board in this game. But it just never felt to me, and it had felt that way. And I feel like, Kuva was sort of the beginning point of this, of sort of a lack of faith for U.S. soccer, for the supporters, for the players, for the program. There was just sort of a dead zone. There was a big mystery. Like, what was this going to be? Was Greg Berhalter even the right guy for the job? And now that's not even a question. And that's why I go back to faith, because this is where we wanted to be before World Cup qualifying, right? We wanted to be champions, and we wanted to be champions at least once. And we hoped in like the back of our minds and sort of chuckled about it that maybe we would be champions of this too, even though from the very start of this whole process, we've been saying, oh, this isn't really the goal. And yeah, that's true, but that's also deflection, right? That's also being like, we kind of think in the end it's not going to be us. And now that it is, I look at where this team, this program, this group of players, this coaching staff is. How could you look anywhere at each other and have anything but faith and belief that when you go to San Pedro Sula or you go to, San Salvador or wherever it is, or you go to, Ohio, however many times we're going to go to Ohio, whatever it is, that they can handle the situation. And that's like all we wanted, right? Because we had proved that we couldn't. And we didn't shown that our young players could. And now these are our young players. These are guys that we didn't even think, like, who thought Gianluca Busio was going to be playing a key role in a final against Mexico's first team and winning that match 3 months ago?
Well, in the same faith vein, you see, these guys are young. Every time you see a U.S. men's national team game, you always see the stat brought up. These guys are young. The average age is the youngest of all time. Like, already putting out that excuse, that if this doesn't go well, this was a learning experience. They're young, give them time. That excuse is out the window. And on top of it, they're getting it done at that age. So when you throw in faith, it's not only faith in this World Cup qualifying process, it's faith in the long term that we have a young group that's ready to go, not only into World Cup qualifying ready and going to qualify for the 2022 World Cup, but also for 2026 and beyond, because we're producing players. Major League Soccer is producing players. Young players are going over to Europe and getting playing time and developing. So there's a good mix within this group, and they're all led by Greg Berhalter, who I think a lot of people said, not enough. We need a bigger name.
We need Tata. We have to have Tata Martino.
No, bigger than Tata.
Did they even talk to Tata? Did they call him?
Even bigger than that. and look what he's done. Built a culture, because you have a national team coach that went through the process and he understands what a team means, an American team, the chemistry, playing in that 2002 World Cup, being a part of that squad when they went so far. You bring that now back full circle as a coach, redeveloping that same feeling. And it's showing. It is clearly showing.
And listen, we're probably going to talk a lot about Greg Berhalter. I did my stock up, stock down out of this camp, and I put him top of stock up, but he didn't even need it. The Nations League win was enough. That was his goal this summer, was to win a trophy and to show that he could be a winner and show that his team could win. He'd already done that. But some of the little points with this group, we've talked a lot about Kellyn Acosta working his way back in and Greg Berhalter being able to keep him connected, keep him motivated. Look at Eric Williamson. He literally lost his spot in this camp, and he was still able to keep him motivated and connected to the group. He comes on and wins the game in the semifinals off the bench in one role, and then he gets pulled into a final and plays his best ever game, obviously at an international level because it's like his second one, in a huge moment where he's connected, he's winning tackles, he's doing the things he does well, turning up field when he gets opportunities. But it just shows you George Bello getting his second appearance and the confidence that the coaching staff has, flowing over to him on the field. Matthew Hoppe, a guy who was off the radar 6 months ago and gives you 118 minutes and maybe was the best player on the field. All of that comes down to what we're talking about, which is the faith, the culture, what they've built. And you see
player on the field
for some sorry most dangerous player on the field for some stretches for the U.S. Charlie, a striker who puts his head down and shoots no matter what. That seems like he's your guy.
Oh, come on, Charlie can get his head up. Later in the career, Charlie became a.
Come on, are you kidding me? I was scoring and creating.
Okay, here we go.
Oh my God, it's like
Thomas
pregame show.
Roll that reel.
It's Stu Holden's birthday. Stu's like, I need to be on this field. I should be on this field. Why am I not there? Let's try to dig into the game because we're going to go through, I think, this tournament, as you said, stock up, stock down, Dave, and try to sort of determine and plot out where guys like Matt Turner or Miles Robinson or James Sands or Williamson or Roldan now fit in.
Kellyn Acosta.
Yeah, because the game is, Kellyn Acosta, he's fit. Like, he's in. Like, there's no unfitting him in. He proved it here. Maybe that's where we should start as we talk about the nitty-gritty of this game. Kellyn Acosta is that man. Like, that's multiple games in this tournament where he was just like, everything was him. He was in the middle of everything. He was winning the tackles he had to win. He was finding the right balls when he did pick it up. He was the game for the U.S., Kellyn, in a lot of ways. And he was the leader. And that's what he was supposed to be. This is what, if you wanted this spot, Kellyn, Kellyn, I'm getting confused here. If you want to be a 6 in qualifying, if you want to be in the starting lineup,
play that role.
Let's go.
Boom. You ready to go?
No.
Hope you're fit.
Men's league. No, I know where I belong. No, he was fantastic. And look, when I think what it stands out, I mean, you didn't even mention the set piece delivery on the game winner, right? And it's just because he does so many things for this team. And the biggest thing I would say about him is just he's a winner. Like, you could just see in the Nations League final, he starts the game at the 6, moves out, ends up playing left back, I think, at the end of that game, and had an incredible performance in that. Again, as the tournament built, he just got bigger and bigger as it went on, and just every time I feel like the moment arrives or it's a big match, he's up for it. Like, he's in somebody's ear, he's in somebody's face, he's making the right plays, he's making the right passes. And he had an extra gear. He looked like he was, the way we talk about Tyler Adams out there, he covered just as much ground. I would love to see like how much distance he covered in this match because he was everywhere. Plays with both feet, can get out of trouble. And so when you think about going into CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers, he's got to be in the team. I don't care where on the field. It's now to the point where you just have to find a place for him. And probably be the number 6 position. But if it needs to be somewhere else, you find a spot for him on the field because I think he's that important and that versatile, can do that much for this team. So, Kellyn Acosta, man of the match tonight, but you could say that probably through a number of them. And just, people I think had said, oh, did he miss his window to go to Europe? Did he, he didn't get that transfer. There was that time where it was, okay, MLS maybe wasn't selling players at the same rate that it is now. And maybe he was going to be a cautionary tale about sticking around in MLS too long. And he got sent home from the national team and then he comes back. And I think it's this thing that we do so often with even maybe younger players in this tournament or guys that we feel like aren't ready necessarily for World Cup qualifiers yet. And it's like, it's a long career, right? And he's still just turned 26 during this tournament. If you're a European suitor watching this tonight, you're probably going to have a pretty good idea about how he sizes up versus Alvarez or whoever it might be from the Mexican side that's plying their trade in Europe. And I just give him so much credit for showing his personality. And I think he's going to play a big role, not just in World Cup qualifiers, but I think also a player that will play a big role at the World Cup, provided we qualify, which, that still needs to be done. I don't want to count chickens because we won, 2 tournaments this summer. It's the big one ahead, but he will definitely play a big part in helping us get there.
Counterpoint. Kellyn Acosta stays in Colorado, plays in midfield with Mark Anthony Kaye, Cole Bassett. David Goss dies of a heart attack because of the pure level of energy and happiness that's happening. And that's how this story
and that's kind of the beauty here, is that he may get that opportunity here to go to Europe, but in Colorado, he's completely revived his national team career to where he is going to play. We got to get there, but in the biggest matches possible for his country. And that didn't look like it was going to happen probably 2 years ago. It might not look like this could have happened. And there was still a point for the last couple of months probably where we're all sort of like, still prove it, How can he play the 6 by himself? If Tyler's out, is it really Kellyn? Well, I think that question has been answered. What other questions have been answered or are open now? What about Greg and his adjustments in the starting lineup?
Yeah, I think that's...
Let's
again, I said he didn't need his stock up.
Let me just lay him out real quick. Bello for Vines, Cannon for Moore, Williamson for Busio, Zardes for DK.
So for him to come in, I think the Zardes for DK one is one that everyone would have made sense. And I actually thought he did the right thing in not bringing DK on, which obviously hindsight's 2020. It looks that way. But DK hasn't proven that he can affect the game or be an outlet at this level right now. And so with your team potentially having to sit deep, it made sense to keep Zardes on. Zardes continued to be an outlet when they needed to, came back and defended when he had to. Williamson coming into midfield, bringing a little bit more physicality than Busio has, maybe a little bit more confidence, a little bit more knowledge about the game, obviously, in his years playing. And so you saw the quality there. But the fullbacks, it was a masterstroke to say, I'm going to bring fresh legs in because I need that energy, that athleticism, sometimes to press high, but also defensively to try and keep this Mexico attack in front of us. And then I'm going to bring on my 2 guys who have played this whole time, probably predetermined around that 60th minute to change the pace of the game. And that's what turned it around, because Mexico came out of the halftime locker room on the front foot. And that was really the only 10 or so minutes where the U.S. looked lost. And it looked like, okay, that's the end of the game. And then Greg Berhalter has those 2 subs to bring on. He said it to John Strong. You talked about in the pregame, Weeby, of unfortunately Christian Roldan's a super sub for him. It's great because it means he has a guaranteed role with the national team. It sucks because it means he probably won't start that much. He comes on as well. And those 3 subs changed the game for the U.S. and allowed them to, what they should have, win in regular time and then get to extra time and eventually get that winner. So one of the things that Greg Berhalter has taken a little bit of heat for is his changes and maybe unwillingness to make changes, not timing it the right way, not affecting the game. He did it twice tonight. He did it from the start, and then he already had a plan that worked to perfection later on in the game.
Charlie, when you think about the way this game was played and won for the U.S., and I'm asking you this because you've done this, you've felt it, you've been a part of teams like this. What does this performance and the way they went about it say to you about this team and about what Greg was trying to accomplish in this game with this group?
Well, it catapults the team into a whole nother stratosphere of what is possible, how good this group is. And I think they all are cognizant of the inexperience, that they're just getting started. They know, yes, 2 trophies have been won this summer, but they're nowhere near the finished product. And that it's all about the process, taking it week by week in World Cup qualifying, because Greg Berhalter is going to let them know it's great what we accomplished this summer, but we start back at ground zero come September in El Salvador, where you're going to be really tested. It's an improved El Salvador side, one that I think grew within this Gold Cup, gives them an idea of what it takes to qualify for a World Cup. They're going to have to come in with that mentality of, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. It might not be pretty, and it most likely won't be, but we know exactly how to get results, especially in CONCACAF, and we need to go there and try and win. That's what I think the mentality of this group is. We're going to win. We're going out to win every game, and we think we can win when we're at our best. So I think from that perspective on the players, everyone feels, okay, we're in a good spot. I'm vibing with my guys. This is like a family, and that's the culture piece that we've talked about. And then from Greg Berhalter's point, I think he came in with a clear identity, with a clear mission. I'm going to get the most out of my guys. I'm going to put them in a position to succeed. I'm going to see them grow. I'm going to talk to them about the ups and downs throughout training and the Gold Cup. He got them together. They all believe in the coach now. So when a coach goes out and tells you, hey, we're playing this formation or we're switching this, there's no question. You say, yes, coach. You know what he's doing. Whereas I've played with coaches who make those changes and everyone is looking at each other like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. This guy has no idea what he's doing. He's killing us. That's not the case, because the proof is the trophy. When you have the trophy behind you, now I listen to me. I know what I'm doing, and that's what I love to see.
What do you in this game? I'm just curious. As you think, we'll get to the game plan and the way they approached it. Does anything translate into World Cup qualifying, and what does?
Yes, I do, and I think it's because of Kellyn Acosta's performance in particular that you can say, all right, we went with the 3-4-3 against Mexico in the Nations League final to start the game. I know that because Kellyn Acosta can cover so much ground, and if Tyler Adams is healthy, I can play with Tyler as a 6 and Kellyn and Weston McKennie slightly in front of him. And then all three, because they have the ability to cover so much ground. And it reminds me of the 4-4-2 we played with Bob Bradley in 2009, 2010. When you have two players who can go up and down and cover so much ground, it allows everyone else to kind of be free. And especially with Tyler Adams, McKennie, and Acosta, now Christian Pulisic has a license to roam. We know Gio Reyna, how he likes to go as plays an inverted winger and come inside. They can put fires out because they can anticipate and they can get to the ball before anyone else. So now I think he's getting real giddy because that makes the team that much more flexible. You have a lot of flexibility. Plus, if you ever do play with just two, you know that Kellyn Acosta, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie can all interchange depending on who needs rest.
Yeah, and it allows us to press as well, too, which there was a much higher line of confrontation in this match to begin with that caused some problems early on for Mexico. So they got the big chance there for Areola, who wasn't able to put it away. But we were able to pick off a couple plays like that throughout the match and pick our moments to do it. And I thought it's just a good stance for the U.S. men's national team in general. It suits our player pool. It suits, I think, the personality of the team. And it helps Mexico from sort of getting into the Olays. And really they were the ones that had to adapt. And it was Tata that was saying, okay, at a certain point, I think in the second half, they, and even at points in the first half, they decided to go a little bit more direct. And they found some success doing that because you put 3 or 4 guys high, and Funes Mori was looking to knock down balls and causing problems. And, you know, they were trying to maybe isolate Sands on the long ball as opposed to Robinson, who looked to shift and try and get those ones. But I thought the tactics were spot on for Berhalter, and even as far as moving the outside backs, which we already hit. But I think that's something that when you look towards World Cup qualifiers, you could say, all right, I think that's something that we could take forward and could suit the style of play and the personnel. And I can't, we look at Kellyn Acosta as the 6, right? And how much he changes the way you can play. And we've talked about Tyler Adams doing that. Miles Robinson changes the picture entirely too, because at times when we struggled in Nations League, it was when John Anthony Brooks and Mark McKenzie got dragged far wide and had to cover ground for the outside backs, whether that was Dest or whoever it was. Miles Robinson, you saw in those plays, can cover that ground himself. He's like he can erase any problem and make it almost look easy when it gets wide. It's just he has that ability and athleticism to get that to cover that much ground. So when you have a 6 and a number 4 or 5 that can play that position and cover ground and put out a fire, it allows you to really, really press forward and know that you have a safety valve in the back.
I agree with you guys. I also think what adds to this is these 3 games. We now know Miles Robinson can be John Anthony Brooks in the games that Brooks doesn't play. That Kellyn can play when Tyler can't, which I don't think we knew a month ago. Like, if Tyler's out, I think you had to change the way your team played. You had to find cover. And unfortunately, Tyler's probably going to be out a bunch. It's just been the reality so far. But you know that everyone's not going to be able to play all 3 games in World Cup qualifying when that's the case. Brooks as well. Probably won't be able to come from Europe and play 3 times. Miles Robinson 100% can play with him. Now we know he can also play without him as that left center back if necessary. And you could partner him with a Mark McKenzie or whoever else, Walker Zimmerman if he's healthy, whatever that is. So you've not just created options with your best team, but you've added depth and confidence in that depth. And, I mean, you look at this. Stu said it on the broadcast, but he was part of a B-C team that went to a Gold Cup final, and they lost to Mexico 5-0. We beat Mexico. Now, I'm not saying today that this is the deepest the pool's ever been, but it shows a level of depth in the pool to be able to compete across the summer in these different ways. And that wasn't something we were sure of because a lot of these guys were unproven. Sam Vines, I think, showed he could play at this level. Shaq Moore's been good. So now you've added 2 or 3 options to the fullback position. So that's been a huge part, I think, for Greg Berhalter of what he's found out this summer.
All right, let's just get into it because we look ahead here, and it's a good way to evaluate what these guys did in this tournament. And the tournament's over, and we won it. Champions. U.S. men's national team. 7th of all time. Gold Cup.
It's nice to win a trophy in Vegas. Like that is a good. If you're gonna win it all, that's a nice place to host a final.
And Charlie's taught us in the past that when you go play a final, in Vegas, you need to have that bottle service set up before. It's not a jinx.
I think they had it right behind the goal.
It's just proper preparation. You're not jinxing anything. You just got to be ready. You just got to make sure. You don't want to be looking at each other in that locker room like, dang, what are we about to do? Like, we just won this. Like,
it's known.
Do we go to 7-Eleven? Like, get a 12-pack? Like, how do we go to the ballroom at the hotel? No, that's not the way this works. Oh boy, let's just get into it. Matt Turner. We'll start in the back. Matt Turner, and here's the stats on him with the national team. He has 7 games started. He's got 6 clean sheets, 7 wins, and a goals against average of 0.14. 5 of the wins have been 1-0. He makes spectacular saves repeatedly in this tournament, game-saving saves in this tournament. Where does he stand now? If you look ahead, first, I guess you could evaluate his performance, but I think, give him the Golden Gloves and basically like call it good. Like, I think we know how well he played. So what now for Matt Turner? Is this, and we said it on the last show, Charlie, and is it time to double down? Do you think this is it? Is he the starter come September?
Man, oh man. I hate one thing that I really dislike is that we kind of just skip over Ethan Horvath. I mean, he came in as a substitute for Zach in that Nations League final. Saved a pen, had another big save, and then had the clean sheet against Costa Rica in the following game. We don't give him any credit. He's also in the mix as a starter because he's proven, and he made a move because he needed to make the move to play. So if he's starting every week at Nottingham Forest and putting in performances, then his name should certainly be in the equation. I don't envy Greg Berhalter that you have 3 phenomenal keepers to come in and all 3 are capable of winning you games in CONCACAF. But you always go with the hot hand in every instance. The player who's playing consistently and the player who's playing the best. That's always how the national team has been for the most part. We want guys who are obviously considered the best, but are playing every week, week in and week out, and doing well. And Matt Turner's doing that. So I think in that instance, after tonight's performance against the Mexican A team, he vaults himself to number 1.
Sorry, because we're gonna have to put this in a graphic, so I just want to make sure the language is correct.
Yeah.
So what Charlie Davies is saying is the guy who plays for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City in the United Kingdom, otherwise known as England, Premier League, is not the starter over the guy who plays for the New England Revolution, Matt Turner.
That is correct. Unless we see something unforeseen with Manchester City and Ederson goes down injured or something, and Zach Steffen is a starter and he's playing. Barring that situation, Matt Turner should be starting come World Cup qualifiers because he's going to be in form.
Should we do a victory lap for Doyle, or should we let him do that when he gets back from vacation?
I think he's in Mexico, probably like talking the ear off of some poor bartender, being like, I told everybody 2 years ago, like 3.5 years ago, I was like, Matt Turner, have you seen his underlying numbers? His goals minus expected goals. It's at the top of the league. Like, nobody knew that he could be the starter for the national team. And that bartender's probably like, yeah. Shut up, man. Here's some more Cuban rum for you. We talked about this with Zach Steffen. And he said, look, I'm going to have to make a decision. Does this put any urgency behind that decision, knowing that there is a World Cup? And World Cup qualifying. We're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm sorry. That there are World Cup qualifiers to be played
The
for.
answer is yes.
There's a spot to be earned, and there is a place in your country's sporting history essentially at stake.
Yes. And the only reason it's urgent now, as opposed to before, is because of Matt Turner. If Matt Turner was not playing out of his skin, and now probably every European club, because he already has a European passport, a Lithuanian passport.
Vamos Lithuania right now.
Which makes him that much more attractive to every team in Europe who are looking for a phenomenal goalkeeper who's just 27 years old, which is young for a keeper. Now, I think the impetus is on Zach Steffen to say, hey, agent, find me a club right now where I'm going to be playing week in and week out. I can't go a whole season again not getting consistent matches. That's what happened.
I think you're right, Charlie. I think one of the things that makes this whole thing awkward is that the World Cup, if we were to qualify, is in November and not here when it should be. Because I think Greg Berhalter, he's got to manage this right. Like Zach Steffen has the ability to be a world-class goalkeeper.